With the upcoming second season of ReZero coming up in the spring anime season and the director's cut of the first season currently airing this winter season, it would be an understatement to say that I am excited for the second season. My excitement for the second season grew so large that I began reading the web novel. Now, with series that are coming out in a short amount of time, I usually have the tendency to read the manga before the anime drops. I did this with The Promised Neverland, Fire Force, and Dr. Stone. Also, I kind of sort of did this with Vinland Saga, but that wasn't until after episode 3 dropped. But when it comes to ReZero, it was different because this time there wasn't a manga. I was dealing with a novel, a book, just words on a page. So as soon as the idea shot in my head, I was not looking forward to it because I'm not a fan of novels. That's just not what I'm into. There are some novels that I have read, not just for school, that I have enjoyed, but it's so few that you can say the general consensus is that I don't like novels. So for me to dip my finger into the first light novel or web novel in this case, I was worried that I wouldn't like it. But to my own surprise, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It also helps a lot watching C-Tactics ReZero podcast, hearing them discuss these chapters because they would refresh my mind on things that happened in chapter and tell me about things that I might have overlooked. Enough with my sad anime backstory. Let's get right into the review. Slash first impression, I guess. Let's just go. This video is going to be split into two parts. The first part is talking about the lore and plot of Arc 4 and just discussing everything that happens within Arc 4 up until chapter 50. The second part will be me talking about the 6 main characters that play a major role in this arc: Subaru, Emilia, Roswald, Beatrice, Echidona, and Garfield. And I will be discussing how I feel about each character so far in Arc 4 within these first 50 chapters. So to begin with the first part, I just want to say I will be jumping around the plot a lot because I don't necessarily want to dwell too much on one thing and begin to focus on that. I don't want to fully explain the plot of Arc 4 that I've seen because it's unnecessary, because if you're watching this, then you're already, or most likely have already read Arc 4. So I'll just briefly touch on things and say how I feel about them. Coming into Arc 4, I didn't really know what to expect. I heard that Arc 4 ReZero gets even better, but I had to see for myself. When the arc began, it wasn't quite interesting. It did not necessarily jump off from the beginning, but it was interesting. Subaru and Emilia head back to the mansion with Otto, and there we meet Frederica, who apparently is the maid that was there before the story takes place. It was nice to meet Frederica. I like her. However, I did find it funny that she was about to kill Subaru when he came back to the mansion. I'm like, man, we're not even 10 chapters into Arc 4, and my guy's already dead. I was like, wow, so this is how we started? I was fine with that. But she didn't, and the story moves onto the group going to the sanctuary, and they were given the advice by Frederica to avoid Garfield. And once they made it there, the first person they meet is Garfield. I was initially surprised when they met Garfield. Obviously, I knew they were going to have to meet him sometime or another, but I didn't expect for him to be the first person they would see, because the way I had the sanctuary laid out in my mind was a lot different than what it actually turned out to be. I was expecting the sanctuary to be a huge, gigantic place with multiple guards hanging around and Garfield to be the #1 top guard, but that wasn't the case at all. But once we got there, it was nice to see Roswald and Ram again. And man, the way I was reading the description of how Roswald got pieced up, I was sad. I was wondering, like, who did this to my guy? Who pieced up my guy like this? He only got one eye? It's like, man. As the arc continues, we learn about the trials and the demi-humans, who are the only ones who can take the trials in the tomb belonging to the Witch of Greed, Echidona. So for the first trial that we have seen up until these first 50 chapters, I like the idea that they have to not necessarily face their past, but either abandon it or come to terms with it, and either one can work to get them past the first trial. I thought that was great because we get to see the backstory of Subaru, and hopefully we get to see the backstory of Emilia. But unfortunately, because of this first trial, I got to see Emilia struggle, and Emilia is best girl, so seeing her struggle or reading her struggle is really hard. What also came out of this was the fact that we not only got to see the Witch of Envy, Satella, and the Witch of Greed, Echidona, but the other 3 witches, Pride, Wrath, and Sloth. We also get information, or at least the names, for all the witches. Up until this part, I thought Arc 4 was okay. I didn't think it was great, but I was enjoying it. But I'll tell you right now, whew, when Subaru left that sanctuary for the first time, that's when we started cooking with grease. When Subaru went back to the mansion and no one was there, and I can just feel the ReZero OST kicking in. Then the way that he died in the first loop, it was so bad because it was just walking and then out of nowhere he slipped and he's wondering, like, what did he slip on? And then he looks down and it's just his intestines leaking out. That was just gruesome. I loved it. And at that moment, I knew it was Elsa. because who would be the only one to cut him in the stomach? After Subaru returned from the first loop, he ran into a brick wall called Garfield. And the things that Garfield did was making me so mad, but I'll save that for later. The next parts I love learning about Amelia's past and the fact that she turned out to be 90 years old apparently. I would say that the best thing to happen during the second loop was the bomb information that was dropped on us that Beatrice has a gospel. And that threw my mind for a loop. I was not expecting that. But even before that, the second Elsa attack, oh my god. The way this author describes everything that's going on, especially in terms of the fighting, it's so gruesome to read because they don't pull any punches in terms of describing the surrounding environments and how characters feel and what's exactly being depicted in the story. Once Subaru returned back from the third loop, and to skip a bunch of content to when Subaru got captured, the relationship between Otto and Subaru really flourished right here. I felt that because Subaru used Otto as the butt of every joke that he made, which I can understand because he did try to kill him, but sometimes I felt for Otto in some cases. Then the commentary behind Otto saving Subaru was really funny because Subaru said out of everyone that could have saved him, Otto was the last person he had in his mind, to the point where he completely forgot that he even existed. Subaru then asked Otto why did he save him, and Otto responded with, because we're friends, and that touched me. It really did. Unfortunately, a few chapters later, he died along with all the other villagers because of a certain somebody, and then Subaru died to the Great Rabbit, which by the way was a gruesome death to read. I didn't think I would have to read someone getting eaten alive. That to me was wild. I have two last key notes before I get to the second half of this video. When Subaru finally got to admit to Echidna and tell someone about return by death, I really felt that because up until this point in the story, he couldn't tell anyone about return by death, and the foreshadowing that we get from Arc 3 and how it's finally solved in Arc 4. Do you remember that scene when Amelia died because he tried to tell her about return by death? And the only reason she died was because she was so close to him. And the fact that he was just able to just open up about that. For me, it was just really relieving for Subaru to finally be able to express himself. When Subaru got to meet the Witch of Gluttony and she made him bite off his fingers so he can feel what true starvation and gluttony feels like. Whew, man, I'm telling you, I felt that. Cause look at my fridge. I ain't got nothing. You just be so hungry sometimes. You want to take a little nibble at your foot. You want to just take a little nibble at your finger. The other key note I want to talk about is the summoning of Satella. Now, we have seen Satella before this encounter early in Arc 4, but that was more of a minor appearance. But this time, she completely came forth and engulfed the entire sanctuary, leaving Subaru and Garfield. And I can't wait to find out the explanation behind these 20 Lewises, but they were also there. But Satella, during the end of these first 50 chapters, was a menace. She was engulfing everybody. Arc 4 so far, 50 chapters in, has been great. As I said before, it was sort of slow in the beginning, but after Subaru left the sanctuary for the first time, it has been non-stop fire since then. At last, I think I've talked enough about this. I don't plan on this video being too long, so let me just move on to the next part. Alright, part 2. To keep the length of this video to a minimum, I'm going to try to keep my opinions and impressions of these characters to 1 to 2 minutes. But let's just see how that goes. First, I want to start off with Echidna, the Witch of Greed. My thoughts on Echidna first and foremost, I like her. I like the aspect of her character that she's very selfish and playful. One thing I enjoy about ReZero is the way they define the 7 deadly sins. They are not defined by the generic sense of the sin that they are put under. Echidna's quest and hunger for knowledge is far more interesting than it would be if her greed was money. Shout out to Anastasia because I actually really like Anastasia. Now, I don't really have too many words on Echidna, mostly because I don't understand her yet. If anything, I have more questions about her as to what is she doing attempting to make clones, or her knowledge of the gospel and Satella. Many questions, but I do like the fact that she has fun messing with Subaru, especially when she was making him drink her bodily fluid. I just thought that was pretty funny. But this is all I have to say for Echidna. I don't really have too much to say about her, but I do like her. Let's move on to Beatrice. I heard coming into this arc that Arc 4 was going to explain a lot more of her character, and so now that I've scratched the surface of Arc 4, I'm excited to see what happens. The information drop that Beatrice has with the gospel was fantastic because this puts in some context behind her previous decisions to save Subaru. The fact that her gospel tells her to keep Subaru alive makes me wonder about the time back in Arc 2 when she was about to fight Roswaal and Ram for Subaru's sake. Did she do it because she knows the gospel tells her to keep Subaru alive? Or did she do it because she was just convinced by Subaru to actually do it? Having a gospel really makes me question the movements of past characters, especially this guy. I wonder what is the relationship between Beatrice and her mother, and how that connects to Subaru. As of right now, there isn't much explained so far when it comes to Beatrice, but I'm really looking forward to seeing where it goes from there. Now, of course, I gotta get to this clown. Just playing, Roswaal is my guy. I am always a fan of clown-looking characters in anime. I don't know why. In this arc, Roswaal is scheming. Not just any old scheming. He's scheming. Now that we know that Roswaal has a gospel, now his past movements look weird, and that he knows about return by death. When Roswaal alluded to return by death, I couldn't tell you how hype I was reading that part, because it was just for the first time someone actually knew about this, the thing that Subaru could never tell anyone. It was wow, it was a big shock. What I want to talk about is what Roswaal did and his intentions. Subaru was mad that Roswaal did intervene during Arc 3, and I understood where he was coming from, but I agree mostly with Roswaal for not helping. By not helping, this allows for Amelia to get closer to the villagers of Arlem and boost her status as a king's candidate, especially considering she's the underdog of all the king's candidate, being that she's a demi-human half-elf. And then also, I kind of have a theory, and I'm pretty sure I'm right, is that Roswaal hired Elsa to kill Amelia. But I don't really know. We just have to see where this is going. But I'm pretty sure I'm right. I'm like 70% sure I'm right. Maybe somebody is going to be some other character, but who knows. But I really do wonder what Roswaal is planning and what his true intentions may be, because he's moving different, if you get what I mean. Alright, now let's move on to the main man that gives me so much anger and so much pain, Garfield. I like Garfield. I enjoy Garfield. Upon his introduction, I like Garfield's character, this prideful, bombastic character. I really like him. As you all know, my pain from Garfield's existence came from when he kept contradicting his own plan in different loops. It was so annoying because you made up the plan, my guy. How are you going to go back on it? And oh my god, Garfield was irritating me, but I like this because it adds some spiciness to the story, but at the same time, it's kind of annoying. I enjoy it, and it fits under Garfield's character of being very spontaneous or speaking in the moment. But I can't explain how hurt and confused I was when he went back on the plan that he made in the second loop. Not only does he go back on his plan, which I understand is because of the witch's scent and his spontaneous personality, but this man then kills, but then this man ended up killing all of the Arlem villagers in the third loop, and Patrash became the GOAT. Oh my god, then Otto? Oh my, no, why? I was beyond hurt because Garfield it's just too unpredictable. He's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. Next up is best girl Amelia. Amelia's character kind of took a nosedive in the beginning of this arc. In the beginning of ReZero, and I'm talking season 1, she was very independent, and that's the reason I liked her. However, I still do like her in this arc, and I'm ready to see what she grows from. However, this arc has changed her to the complete opposite, making her more dependent on others. It hurts to see best girl Amelia this low, but I just gotta go through it. It all started when Puck went away. Then now having to face her past is tearing away at her soul. Also, her backstory is very sad because she froze all of her people in ice, or at least she believes she did, because I think there may be some lies behind that story. I don't believe Roswaal necessarily told the truth. Oh, let me take that back. I think he told the truth, but I don't think that's the truth behind the story. But I'll just have to wait and see. And as for what I like about the deconstruction of Amelia's original character is the fact that she's more reliant on Subaru, and it's more or less a shipping thing. Because before, she was very close to Subaru, but not necessarily as close that she is now, because she's a lot more dependent, and Subaru is the only person that she can really open up to and really throw her feelings at. And for me, it makes it look like their relationship is getting a lot closer. So I'm really enjoying that. So I'm not too big on her being the opposite of what she used to be. Lastly, the star of it all, Natsuki Subaru. Now, I know a lot of people hate Subaru, but I don't. I'm mostly indifferent, but I'm slowly turning on the side where I actually really like Subaru. I think he's a cool guy. But let me start off with the backstory of Subaru. I really felt for him in his backstory in the first trial because he was a kid trying to live up to his father's expectations, but fell short, giving him social anxiety, only for his father to explain to him that he doesn't need to live up to what his father expects. I really felt that because I have social anxiety myself, even though mine isn't different from what Subaru has, but I still feel where he's coming from. This backstory gives Subaru's character a lot more relatability. So I'm glad he's getting more character depth. The character growth that Subaru has had so far is amazing to see once he came to terms with his past. Even though I still feel Subaru is the same as he always been, but I feel there's a different vibe now whenever I read his dialogue. I can't exactly place what I'm trying to say or what I mean by that, but I just feel like he's different, and I can't wait to see him grow even more. This is it for part 1 of ReZero Arc 4, chapters 1 to 50 review. I know I probably skipped over a bunch of stuff and said a bunch of wrong information, but hey, it's been like 2 weeks since I last read. I'm not the biggest fan of novels, and this is not manga, so since there are no pictures, sometimes I don't necessarily understand what's really going on, or I just can't really remember all the information that was thrown into the chapters. So give me some slack if I said something wrong. I'm slowly getting used to reading novels. Anyway, let me wrap up this review / impressions of Arc 4. Can't wait to read more and do another review. I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you all for watching. Goodbye.